I'm a clinical health psychologist, and I specialize in treating combat-related post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. I help people cope with the trauma of war. Trauma can have a big impact on the brain, which comes out through thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. With PTSD, the nervous system is hijacked. If a soldier survived a bombing, the brain might say, "I will never let that happen again," and may react to something back home, like fireworks, as if there's a similar level of threat, but there's not. Logic is overridden, and the survival brain is in control. It's very disruptive. As a psychologist, I've studied for years how to treat the effects of negative experiences, and I'm currently working with the world's largest research consortium for post-traumatic stress. The bulk of my work in PTSD has been in using cognitive behavioral therapy, which boils down to facing thoughts and facing fears to retrain the survival brain. It's very effective, and it's not just for PTSD. It's effective for many other issues as well. The common thread for symptom improvement often comes down to one key thing: do the opposite of what feels right. Get counterintuitive. With depression, getting active helps. With insomnia, getting out of bed and restricting sleep help. And with anxious thoughts, thinking positive is not the answer. That would make too much sense. The brain is so much more complicated than that. Getting counterintuitive means welcome the worst of the thoughts, examine them, feel the discomfort to move through them and make lasting change. How many of you have ever had to give a presentation but anxiety made you want to quit? What about feeling nervous to drive after a car accident? Anxiety in situations like this is normal, but doing what anxiety tells you to do, the fear instincts, what they tell you to do, to quit or avoid, creates a bad cycle. Getting counterintuitive to face discomfort helps us stay functioning and healthy. 1 in 4 people will experience significant mental health issues, and most of us struggle with something. A little depression, anxiety, difficulties in relationships. No one is immune to struggles. I've treated the same symptoms in someone facing homelessness as I have in doctors and judges. And I, too, have had to face my own mental health difficulties, which is not what a psychologist usually talks about. When I was 19, away at college, I woke up in the middle of the night, and there he was. Standing over me was a man, a stranger, in my apartment, in my room, with the door closed, staring down at me. I was confused and terrified and screamed. Think about that moment for a second. What would you do? Your wife or your daughter? When I screamed, the intruder ran, thankfully. The police said that they'd been trying to catch him, and he had hurt other people, so I was lucky. For months, I slept with a hammer under my pillow to cope, but my true struggle lay dormant until years later during the high stress of graduate school when the trauma flooded back. I began to have nightmares about this. Waking up, I couldn't tell what was reality versus a dream. I felt unsafe sleeping. In fact, I wasn't really sleeping. I kept wanting to make sure all the doors were locked, and was even putting a chair in front of the door because it made me feel safer. If someone were to break in, maybe I would hear it and wake up. This was starting to affect my daily life. And the irony was I was spending my days helping others with post-traumatic stress and anxiety. In my patients, I began to see myself. That was happening to me. I realized that I was hijacked by my survival brain. The real threat was in the past, miles away. I was living in a very locked, insecure, small building. But the survival brain pays attention to threat and fear, not logic. And it was making me choose thoughts and actions that seemed like they were helping me manage my fear, but they were only maintaining it. What felt like managing was only maintaining. I knew I had to break the cycle. I knew I had to face my fears and stop responding to my brain's survival instincts. I had to get counterintuitive. And so, begrudgingly, I began to go to bed with my front door unlocked. Unlocked. It was terrifying and a huge struggle. Just as I guide my patients to do, I took a deep look at my catastrophic thoughts and actively worked to put them into context. After a couple of nights passed and nothing bad happened, my survival brain started to learn that there wasn't somebody outside my door just waiting for the chance to get in, and the reality must be that I was safer than I thought. My symptoms started to lift as my survival brain and nervous system chilled out. Through leaving the door unlocked and getting counterintuitive, I also unlocked myself from my anxious cycle. We always need to lock our doors, but it shouldn't be something that's attached to anxiety and fear. When it is, that's a sign we need to make a change because it's the anxiety that's in control. We aren't. We also need survival instincts, and gut feelings can serve us well. But if the threat isn't immediate, if there's a certain negative emotion you just can't shake, or you notice yourself with the same old struggle yet again, pay attention. It's here that trusting sneaky, misplaced instinct may be keeping a problem locked in. How many of you, whether you do it or not, believe that physical exercise is important for health? Pretty much everyone, because we know that it is. Would you agree that mental, emotional well-being is also important for overall health? Of course it is, and brain exercise can help us maintain it. Research shows that getting counterintuitive, going against your own grain, helps flex the brain muscles or neural connections that help us stay balanced. We can strengthen the area of the brain called the frontal lobe, which is a key region in helping us maintain and control and regulate emotion, attention, and behavior. Doing exercise for your brain might be as small as not scratching an itch, but simply observing it, or as large as not running away from a situation out of fear, but moving into it. Mindfulness is a great brain exercise. It's about just simply observing without judging or reacting. You can do it anywhere. I want you all right now to just simply notice what it's like to be where you are, listening. Noticing who or what is next to you, around you. And also notice what your next inhale feels like. Anchor yourself in this moment. When you control your attention like that, you're exercising the frontal lobes. You can be more aware of what emotion you're experiencing, and then act intentionally rather than automatically. You can practice that at any point. Check in with yourself throughout the day, noticing what emotion you're experiencing and then how your actions might be guided by that. If you're feeling uncomfortable or nervous, standing like this tends to reinforce that cycle and change how people act toward you. If instead you stand like this, you break your own cycle and can create a new reality. How many of you have ever gotten angry in traffic? Don't lie. Getting angry is normal, but can be damaging if it's happening consistently. Instead of allowing that instinct to rule your mood and affect your health, notice the uprising frustration, and then replace angry behavior, which will only reinforce the frustration, with the opposite. Welcome the time in the car. Practice wishing others well. Find a podcast. Practice deep breathing, or pick up the harmonica. Both hands on the wheel when the car is moving, please. Getting counterintuitive can help not only us, but also those around us. When someone comes to us feeling bad, it makes us feel bad, and we want to change it to make it better. But that's a little bit of the survival brain sneaking in, saying, this is dangerous, fix it. Getting counterintuitive might be to provide space for the struggle. Sit in the muck of it together. Research shows that simple human connection can be more healing than problem solving or thinking positive. We all answer to a similar brain, and life can be tough. Am I right? We will all have our struggles, guaranteed. These cycles are very complicated, and getting professional help when it gets too much, or better yet, getting a head start before it gets to that point, is a great idea. Sometimes the counterintuitive approach is to simply acknowledge the struggle, be open about it. Through being open about our own difficulties, actively working on ourselves, and practicing empathy toward others, together we can better support the mental health of humanity. My traumatic experience in getting counterintuitive changed my life, and so has helping other people in this way. I stand here today on this red dot as a clinical psychologist and also a fellow human who gets tripped up by my own brain to tell you that we all need to be thinking more counterintuitively to stretch, grow, and break negative patterns. So, what do you struggle with? What is one counterintuitive shift you can make today that will help you go against your grain? A benefit of being human is that we can override our own biology to train the brain for a healthier state. I challenge us all to step more into the counterintuitive life. Thank you.